Life Unrehearsed, brought to you by Caregiver Crosswalk, Dementia Care Consulting. Never roam alone.
And good afternoon. Welcome to Life Unrehearsed. My name is Matt Del Vecchio, specializing in life transitions, downsizing in the senior living industry.
And I'm Corey Sirota, clinical social worker and psychotherapist, specializing in grief and loss.
Coming right up on the first half of today's show, Caring for the Caregiver. The inspirational Claire Webster, founder of Caregiver Crosswalk, will be providing us with invaluable words of advice for caregivers that may be finding it a little tough these days, especially during the pandemic. Corey, did you survive Black Friday?
I absolutely did, and so did my wallet or pocketbook, as the Americans say. Although my husband did buy me a beautiful gift for Black Friday, which was very nice. It's a pre-Hanukkah / birthday gift, which I'm excited about, and I think he's equally excited about it.
Way to go, Andy! Good man. I think it was a little bit subdued this year, and we'll see. We got to take it a day at a time and still vigilant. Did you see the cases in the States Friday? Over 200,000. Yeah, you know what? And this is before the American Thanksgiving results. Who knows
Right.
Be like? Anyhow, what do we have coming up on the second half, Corey?
The fact of the matter is we are living in a truly virtual world, which means plenty of screen time. We're kind of wondering what effect that might be having on our eyes. So coming up, we're going to talk about that with an optometrist. So join us after the 4:30 news.
All right. That should be interesting. Lots of screen time, and very interested to hear what he will have to say. That's Daniel Wilkenfield, optometrist, after the 4:30 news. Now, let's bring in Claire Webster. Claire is a certified Alzheimer care consultant, founder of Caregiver Crosswalk, which is a consulting firm that provides education and support services to help individuals navigate the journey of Alzheimer's disease and or a dementia-related illnesses. And Claire is also the founder of the McGill University Dementia Education Program and the host and founder of McGill Cares webcast. Claire, we are so glad to have you back on Life Unrehearsed.
Oh, thank you. Hi, Matt. Hi, Corey.
First of all, Claire, congrats on this McGill Cares webcast. You are doing great work, incredible guests, very educational for all types of caregivers and education in general. So kudos to you. Keep that going. And, when I attend one of your speaking engagements or webinars, Claire, I always walk out inspired. You speak from the heart because you speak from experience. Your own caregiving journey was not an easy one. Can you tell us your story?
Well, the reason I do what I do is really, I think my story is representative of thousands of other, caregivers out there. It's really when my mother was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease in 2006, essentially I was provided with absolutely no prescription of care, as I like to call it. I was provided with absolutely positively no information at all. She was provided with the diagnosis that she had Alzheimer's disease. I was told that there was information available on the web. And then basically the words for me were, good luck, Mrs. Webster. And, I really, truly believe that a lack of education about a disease, it doesn't only have to be dementia, but a lack of education about, the disease will have a significant impact on the quality of care of the person that you're caring for, as well as the safety of the person. And it will have a ripple effect on the well-being of the caregiver. So it's really because of the lack of information, the lack of support, the entire, journey that I was on with my mother. There was nobody from the healthcare system that ever asked me how I was doing. I wasn't well prepared for the journey to properly care for her, the decisions that I needed to make. And, what happened to me essentially was I suffered a very, very, very severe nervous breakdown in 2011, not only as a result of caring for my mother, but, I was a sandwich generation caregiver. I had 3 young children. I had a full-time career, and I did not have the necessary tools that I needed to properly not only take care of her, but of myself. And this is really what I see out there in terms of what other people are going through.
Claire, your story is so compelling. I've heard it before as well as Matt. You always speak so well. I want to clarify for everyone, what is your definition of a caregiver?
So my definition of a caregiver is really, I never saw myself as a caregiver. It's really a person, a family member or a professional who all of a sudden has to assume the role of caring for what we call activities of daily living of a person. So, when I speak to husbands or wives or kids, I say to them, you're a caregiver. And they said, well, what does that mean? I said, well, now you began assuming the role of physically caring for this person that you love. So, for instance, right now, all of a sudden I have actually a good friend of mine who called me and said, I can't believe that I have to now, change my mother's underwear. I've got to bathe her. I've got to help her eat. Like, I've never had to do this before. And I said, well, you've become a caregiver. When you have to start, helping a person get dressed, physically, helping them with their mobility, accompanying them to the bathroom, accompanying them to the shower. Those are responsibilities that make people, family members especially, become caregivers.
That's Claire Webster here on Life on Rehearse with Matt and Corey. Claire, of course, is the owner of Caregiver Crosswalk, and she's providing us with some caregiver advice. Claire, in your world, you see many, many challenges faced by caregivers. You mentioned a couple of them. Can you expand a little bit? And this is in general with caregivers. What challenges are they going through? What are you seeing out there?
Okay, well, in general, I know you want to discuss COVID afterwards, but I think in general, I'll keep coming back. It's really the lack of education and information. So the lack of information that we're provided by the healthcare community with regards to the disease per se that we're dealing with, okay? We're not really properly educated on the type of disease, how the evolution, and I think most importantly is how do we navigate the healthcare system? How do we access support? How do we access support from the CLSCs? What community resources are out there to help us? So that's really one of the biggest issues. The other part that right now is that we're feeling is oftentimes, care, we call it care partners, because it's not only family members that could be caregivers, it could be friends, it could be caregivers. We often feel that we're alone, that, because there is such a weight of responsibility on our shoulders, we feel that we're alone, that we become frustrated, that why am I acting this way? Why am I yelling? Why am I feeling so burnt out or that I've had enough? We don't realize that these are normal feelings, emotions, but a lot of people feel shame. So, and then now with COVID, COVID has added a whole new layer.
So can you talk about, Claire, can you talk about that? Like what are the challenges due to COVID?
Okay, well, the biggest challenge right now is really isolation, okay? So, a lot of people were having access to day programs, day centers, so all of that has really been interrupted. So there's no respite for family members. The other big issue right now is that for those people who were getting support at home, whether it be through the CLSC or professional caregivers, many families have become now really afraid of allowing anybody into their home. So what happens now is if families were used to getting, a few hours a week of assistance, they've now said, I don't want to have anybody in my home. So now they've really assumed the role of bathing, dressing, there's no respite. I know, for example, also that people are we're all living with the same person day in, day out. There's no mixing up of other social interactions. People are becoming very, very frustrated. People don't know how to access their healthcare providers. They're afraid to go if something's wrong. They're afraid to go to the hospitals. And, what we're seeing a lot of right now are the coping mechanisms, the way in which people are coping with their stress. So people are drinking more, they're eating more, they may be smoking more. And another big challenge that I'm seeing for families is, the senior who's living alone, okay, where the kids are out of town. There's no spouse. There's no one here to help out. So I'm getting a lot of calls from kids living abroad saying, oh, my gosh, I'm so concerned about my parent. Or I'm getting calls from doctors saying, that this one individual was found wandering alone. The neighbors are taking them in. So COVID has added like a whole new layer to the challenges that we've already been facing before that.
A whole new dynamic is right,
Yeah.
Claire. And you know, I'm on the board of Nova West Island, and we've had to shut down our adult day center, and there's so much more. You bring up some excellent points. Now, your specialty, you are truly an expert in terms of caregiving regarding Alzheimer's and dementia. We want to hear your thoughts about some of the challenges that they're facing and some of your words of advice.
Life Unrehearsed, brought to you by Leanna Senior Transition Support, specialists in downsizing and seniors residences.
Welcome back to Life Unrehearsed. I'm Corey Sirota, along with my co-host Matt Del Vecchio, and we are talking with Claire Webster, owner of Caregiver Crosswalk, about providing very, very essential and important caregiver advice. Right before the break, we talked a little bit about alluding to the fact that some of your biggest challenges with particularly Alzheimer's disease and dementia-related illnesses, you have a very vast experience with that. So we were mentioning that. Could you share with us some of the biggest challenges that you deal with?
Yeah, I mean, for the majority of families, again, it's really as a result of the lack of education about the disease. So people don't know how to really care for a person that has dementia. The biggest challenge that I'm currently seeing is really how to manage challenging behaviors, like people that are living at home, living with a person who has dementia. They really don't know they don't understand what's going on with the person. Like, why is the person repeating themselves 100 times a day? Why do they keep changing their clothes? Why are they behaving, in perhaps an aggressive, like a verbally aggressive manner? There's physical aggression that could happen. And so that's like the biggest challenge right now. And I think what I need people to know that when a person develops dementia, they lose all their sense of logical thinking. So it's the disease that's speaking and it's not them. I'm getting a lot of family members calling me who are expressing tremendous frustration. There's a lot of arguments happening right now. And so it doesn't matter how much you try to reason with a person. They cannot understand. It's not their fault. It's a disease that is making that happen. So if you add on isolation to all of that, right. And so you've got the person that is really, showing challenging behaviors, the care partner is becoming very, very frustrated. So I'm seeing a lot now of fights, anger, frustration. So that's number one. Number two is, again, how to assist with what we call activities of daily living. How can I convince my loved one to take a shower, to get into the shower, to get dressed? Another big problem right now is home safety because, the person is wandering around in the middle of the night or wandering in and out of the kitchen, or especially with COVID, the sanitary measures. They don't understand why they need to wear a mask, why they need to wash their hands over and over again, right? Yeah. So you're trying to explain all of that.
We're talking with Claire Webster here on Life Unrehearsed. And Claire, you're bringing up so many challenges that are faced. And, the reality is, above and beyond Alzheimer's and dementia, about 1 in 4 Canadians, believe it or not, over the age of 15 are considered caregivers, at least at one point in their life. There's a lot of caregivers out there. So now what we want to hear from you, speaking from personal experience, can you provide some of your personal tips?
Well, I really believe at this time that we're going through, it's really important to pick your battles. So, when I say bite your tongue, I had a friend who told me the other day, oh my gosh, if I have to listen to my husband chew his cereal one more time, I'm just going to lose my mind. I mean, I think it's really important to pick your battles. Don't nitpick. So and especially when it comes to dementia, if what the person is doing is not a danger to themselves, or to you, just let it go. Let it go. And, I think especially with dementia too, it's important to use what I call the compassionate lie. You don't have to tell the truth every time. If people are having tough days and you need to use a compassionate lie in order to make them believe about the importance of wearing a mask or why they can't go out, do that. And, if you can, it's something as simple as, because we're so isolated right now, but if you can just get out and go for a walk, even if it's just for 30 minutes, but just get out, try to find some space for yourself if you can, call a friend because we need to talk to people because all the social activities have been taken away from us, like Zoom with a friend, FaceTime with a friend, but but call a friend. And I think a very important point that I need to tell people is be careful with the alcohol consumption. Be careful with, whatever you're using to manage your stress. If you realize that you're smoking too much these days or drinking too much these days, because these coping mechanisms can easily become addictions. I know from personal experience. So it's not because your caregiving days are going to end that you're going to think, oh, I'm going to give up these bad habits. These bad habits can last you a lifetime. So really monitor the type of coping mechanisms that you're doing. Try to turn to exercise. There are some things that are available virtually. There's all kinds of good platforms, but really you've got to take care of yourself as best as you can.
That's Claire Webster, owner of Caregiver Crosswalk. She's providing some invaluable suggestions and advice really about managing someone as being a caregiver, managing your loved one with coping mechanisms that I would call adaptive ones versus maladaptive ones. And so thank you for sharing some of those tips with us. What about resources out there for caregivers and families?
Okay, well, I'm glad you asked. So, as you mentioned earlier, I'm the founder of the McGill University Dementia Education Program, and I work with two wonderful professionals, Dr. Serge Gauthier and Dr. José Moret. And so on our website, which is www.mcgill.ca/dementia, we have a multitude of resources that are available. And then there is the entire McGill Cares webcast, not only relating to dementia, but on all kinds of caregiving and from education for caregivers, all kinds of professionals. Corey and Matt, you were on my webcast, but we talk about all different types of diseases. Obviously, I work privately with families as a professional consultant, and I Zoom with the families that I'm working with. I need to tell people, though, that if you really need to access support from the healthcare system, you should be calling 811. The Cummings Center has a whole bunch of amazing virtual programs and webcasts that are available. There's Alzheimer's Society of Canada, Nova Montreal and Nova West Island, Matt, that you're affiliated with.
Thank you, Claire.
And there's also L'Appui, okay? L'Appui, which is L'Appui, that would be available.
L'Appui is excellent. They have an amazing website, tons of resources there. Claire, you are a wealth of information. That's Claire Webster, owner of Caregiver Crosswalk. Claire, how can people get a hold of you?
You can reach me at www.carecrosswalk.com or by phone 514-826-9968.
All right, Claire, thank you very much.
Thanks, Claire.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Corey, what do we have coming up after the 4:30 news here?
A virtual world means plenty of screen time. What effect is this having on our eyes? Well, optometrist Daniel Wilkenfeld will tell us exactly what we need to know. You'll hear more about that after the 4:30 news.